Uno, dos, tres, porta.
Fear not, citizens. Hope has arrived because we are back with another My Hero Academia review. I'm your host, President Michael Thomas, the novice cinephile. I go by many names. Joining me, as always, is the flaming ice cube, the emblem maniac himself, my co-host, Isaac Wolf. Isaac, how you been, man? We were on a little break there.
Yeah, it's been a little break and all that, yes, but it's been good. It's just so tiring. Life, you know.
Yeah, life is like a hurricane here in Duckburg, right? Joining us, as always, is our friend Leo Rydel from Geekly Goods, bringing us the Plus Ultra talk. Leo, we had a mini vacay. I watched the dub last week. You know, things have been good. How you been, man?
Dude, I've been good. I mean, hey, glad to be back with My Hero Academia. They really do not like slack when it comes to holidays. They're like, yo, we are taking a break. Everybody go home. We're coming back next week. I can't blame them for doing that, though. Like, good call. Just kind of letting things breathe and letting the fans just kind of, have a little break during the holidays. But it's nice to be back. I really hope we're getting into a specific story I won't talk about now very soon. I hope we're getting to this arc is about to shake up a little. I really hope we're getting to some good stuff because it kind of feels a little slow right now.
Yeah, so I agree there. So this episode is called, it's episode 103, by the way, episode 15 of season 5. One thing at a time, which I feel like it speaks true to what is happening in the anime and the manga. We'll get there in the next part of the discussion. But in this episode, the boys are continuing to work with Endeavor at his agency. And I really enjoyed this one because Endeavor, I feel, and this is why I love this arc so much. Endeavor, I think, is the best teacher Deku could have ever hoped for. Right? He is the only one who's telling him to slow down and take it one step at a time. Don't worry about Black Whip. Don't worry about your 6 other quirks. Focus on controlling Air Force, which is something he developed last season, but he still doesn't really know how to use it. I enjoyed like the mentor role that Endeavor has with Deku, Todoroki, and Bakugo. I also really enjoyed some of the Hawk stuff we got. It did spoil the next arc that Leo keeps alluding to. And so I'm going to talk about that in a second. But Isaac, I just want your thoughts right quick on this episode, one thing at a time.
Well, it was kind of hilarious when Deku was explaining what he wanted to work with and seeing Shoto and Bakugo just getting get on with it, get on with it, just get on with it, and everyone, do you understand what he said? And Endeavor, you need help with that. Get it? People just got so confused that he could keep track on what the deck was saying.
Yeah, that moment's great because through all of Deku's rambling and muttering, Endeavor still was able to understand what he needed help with. Whereas Burnin and Bakugo are just standing there like, what the heck, kid? that was a great moment. Leo, before I toss it over to you, I just want to say seeing Toga in Twice was cool, but also awful. Because, guys, I'm going to just spoil it because the show spoiled it. There's a moment in the next arc where we thought Toga died. But this episode shows that she didn't. So, Leo, I'm going to let you vent for a second. First of all, you can tell us what you thought of this episode specifically. But what the heck is happening with NBA?
So, yeah, like I like this episode. Despite saying earlier it was a little boring, I did like this episode because it does really show us the relationship that Endeavor has with every single student. And I like that we got to see him break down each of their weaknesses and things that they need to work on. And he even compared the weakness that Shoto and Bakugo both have to one another. And I thought that was cool to just send them home with a little homework, like you guys got this part of your ability to work on, which is obviously storing the power that they have and using it a little more wisely instead of just like one big explosion to propel Bakugo. He should actually in turn store the power so that he could travel long distances at high speeds. It was nice to see him kind of like analyze and break down every single person, because it's like you realize Endeavor is the number one, and he in this episode he does display those qualities of being number one, saving people on time, being the quickest to the crime. It was a good episode, I think, for Endeavor and the kids. Yes, funny expressions for Bakugo, especially when Deku's like breaking down what he wants to work on. And I noticed something, even though Bakugo was telling people to shut up, it wasn't as explosive as his like past, as we know, his past outcries. So he's kind of maturing, y'all. MVA,
slowly but surely.
Yeah, slowly but surely, which is how things go in this anime. But yeah, seeing Twice and Toga break down some things that we should have learned a little bit later is a bit of a warning sign to me. I'm wondering if they're going to just graze over the villain arc that we get in the manga, because it's already starting to separate from the manga here by introducing an arc that's later on in the story, a little bit earlier. So I'm a little bit concerned that we might just kind of graze over MVA. And if there is any MVA, we'll see like maybe 2 or 3 episodes and then that's it. I'm really hoping that they can kind of slow things down with the training after a certain point. Like, I think this is like actually this episode, in my opinion, is actually a really good episode to split off into MVA. Let the kids work on their techniques. Endeavor already gave them a little bit of things to work on. Let them do that. And I also think it's cool too, going back to the Endeavor stuff, that he actually gave Deku a different assignment than the other two, since his quirk just seems to, as we know, keep manifesting more and more abilities. He's like, yo, treat it like a car, learn every single aspect and keep learning those things in isolated order, so that just like you can with full cowling, you can do those things without even having to think. Really good episode for Endeavor and the trainees, but I'm hoping that we can still get MVA. I don't know, y'all. It feels like they're just gonna give it a couple episodes and then go into the next season.
It's weird because, again, we've been dancing around this because we didn't want to spoil it, right? But when you introduce Redestro and Toga and Twice, and it's like that kind of already spoiled the ending of MVA, right? So I don't know. That's why I didn't pull a spoiler tag really when we were talking about it, because the show itself kind of already told you how that ends. So getting back to the Endeavor stuff, though, I agree. This is why I said Endeavor is the best teacher Deku has ever had, because he's the only one who's actually looked at what he's struggling with and gave him legitimate advice. All Might, we already have established multiple times he's a bad teacher. Gran Torino helped Deku a lot with Full Cal, but he also hasn't been able to work with him since then. And Eraserhead has been working with Shinso. He hasn't given any of the kids in Class A really much time.
He's got a lot to balance between all of them, you know?
Yeah,
I mean, All Might means well, but yeah, he's a horrible teacher.
Well, All Might is used to being the number one symbol. He's not used to being a teacher. You know, he's the spotlight of the crowd. He's not necessarily the one that can break things down to other people and teach them how to become the best. I mean, all he can really do is help Deku get in shape for One for All. And then that was kind of like it, man. As soon as Deku started manifesting more abilities, he kind of was like, huh? Like, I've never done this before, Deku. I don't know, my man. Like, he couldn't really break it down like Endeavor, because he was always saving the day instead of Endeavor actually studying his All Might's quirk and being able to pull, and other people's quirks clearly, and being able to pull out the best and the worst of it. Everybody. All Might's not a teacher. He's a symbol.
And that's what I love about the parallel here with Deku and Endeavor. Like, Endeavor even says, for some people, it comes a little easier than others. The rest of us have to work for it. And it's like, that's exactly it. Deku has to work to get to All Might's level. And I will give All Might this. He did teach him how to use Air Force. That was All Might's idea. So he did help a little bit since he gave him the hair, but not much.
And you bring up a good point with the hard work versus the naturally talented, because All Might was naturally there. Deku has to work for it.
Right. And it even goes back to Bakugo too. Like, he's not here to learn anything. He's here to learn what he can't do, which I thought was interesting. And it comes across as really cocky, but when you think about it, Bakugo has always been the best wherever he was. Even in Class A, he won the sports festival. So he's technically the best in his own class. So he's trying to figure out how to tweak it and how to become even better. And yeah, like not making excuses. I can't work well in the cold because his power involves his sweat. And Endeavor just shutting him down and saying, figure it out, store that power. Awesome stuff.
Yeah, Bakugo, I mean, it's such a different character because we're so used to the, most of the main characters, even if they're naturally talented, still having to boost their abilities. But he's such a master at his quirks, his techniques, studying the enemy. He's so well in fighting. But I thought it was actually like really cool for him along this journey to figure out what he can't do. Figure out what little nooks and crannies he can continue to learn and how to continue to manipulate his quirk to be able to pivot in any situation. Because I feel like Bakugo's quirk is just so straightforward that it's kind of like, okay, what else can, like, he kind of feels like, well, what can really hurt me? Because it's such a straightforward but powerful quirk to be able to explode the sweat on your palms. That it's kind of like, okay, what can you not do, my guy? Like, what more to there is you?
Right. Yeah, and I appreciate, like, even Deku pointing out, it's like your armor piercing shot, which nice. It's nice to see Deku remembering Bakugo's moves, but it's like that's something that was always weird to me with Bakugo's gauntlets. Right, they're storing his sweat. So why does he complain about not having enough sweat if the gauntlets are storing it? And it's like he needs to figure out how to harness that energy and keep it with him, no matter the season. Isaac, you've been quiet for the last few minutes, bud. Do you have any other thoughts on this episode?
Well, I don't know really what to chime in where you haven't mentioned, because, well, like you said, there is a worry about a certain arc that was supposed to happen now, but they switch around. Supposedly because of the movie, or am I mistaken?
So, guys, there is a new movie coming out, My Hero Academia Movie 3. I think it's called World Hero Mission or something like that. Anyway, that entire movie is focused on them working with Endeavor. So, if they were to have that Meta Liberation arc before the Endeavor Agency arc, they wouldn't line up properly because the movie comes out in like a month and a half. They would still be on MVA, which is why I assume MVA is just going to be the end of the season. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we have a filler episode next week, so who knows? But in the movie, we need the kids already with Endeavor, so there's that. You can't be mad at a filler episode starring Uraraka, Asui, and Nejire. Come on, man.
Skip. Like, I'm just like, really, we really don't need that. Like, look, I like Uraraka. I like all of Class 1A. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, I like to get to MVA now. There's been too much teasing and picking around and spoiling and all this stuff. Let's just get to MVA. Like, I really think that it will mean a lot, even for the anime viewers, to at least 4 or 5 episodes without Deku and establish the other point of the story. Try not to spoil here, but establish the other perspective of the story, I think would be good for anime viewers, because we still are just in the hero only perspective. Getting that perspective of the other side is going to be huge for this anime.
Yeah, and they keep flirting with it. Like, again, in this episode, we have Hawks, who he continues to be the most interesting part of every episode he's in. He is working with Dabi, and he meets Toga. Toga has a cameo where she just fawns over Izuku for no reason whatsoever. But it's like they're planting the seeds of, in 4 months, Tomura is going to destroy everything. And that's great. Without the context of that other arc, for me, it rings a little hollow. I don't know how anime onlys feel when they watch that scene. They're probably really intrigued, but also still kind of confused. And so it's building up. It's building up to something really cool. I'm just hoping when we do get to MVA, they do it justice, because that'd be a heck of a cliffhanger to end season 5.
Watch it end on the MVA begin and all that. Yeah. So the whole rumbling and all that. Yes. Okay. Time for making season 6.
I don't think they can do that though, because can you start a season with an arc that barely features Deku? That'll be even worse than what's happening now.
I mean, this arc had what was the training arc, and how much were Deku a part of it?
Right, but you got to remember, in My Hero Academia, as much as Deku's the main character, Class A is also kind of the main character. So him being featured and seeing the rest of his class, I think works than focusing on Hawks and Shigaraki, for example.
Yeah, fair point. Fair point.
Yeah, I think that it would be in their best interest to end the season, with MVA, because then we've spent this whole season training with Class 1A, going on to a deeper training with Deku, Bakugo, and Shoto. Go to the next one or go to the next arc within the season, and you open up a completely new story right before getting into arguably the best arc of My Hero Academia so far. Like, this next arc after MVA is absolutely bananas, y'all. Like, just think towards the end of Shippuden. That's all I'm going to say.
Ooh. That's the best way to put it, and I love the consistency
part of Shippuden, not the bad part. I'm talking like that cool war and stuff.
Yeah, I just love the consistency of how we find a way to bring Naruto into every episode. Let's just keep it going, guys. No, but you're right. Like, if you end on that cliffhanger with MVA, and then that means, like, I'm excited for season 6 because we always knew Class A versus B was one of the weaker arcs. From here on out, it's just going to be balls to the wall, which is exciting. Isaac, were you saying something? We kind of interrupted each other there for a second.
No, I just accidentally yawned and didn't manage to mute myself before I could do that.
The thought of the anime canon episode really has you that tired, huh?
No, you know what makes me tired, but anyway.
Yeah, that filler episode, I'm not looking forward to that whatsoever. I don't know, man. Like, some of these Christmas episodes and all that stuff, it's like, come on now. I even ended up just skipping that episode entirely. I just think that they can jump right into MVA at any point. Any point. It could have been at the last episode. It could have been after the kids were training. Could be next episode. I don't know what's up with all this dancing around. I wonder if the writers feel that if we take away Deku, Bakugo, and or Shoto, then the story people will lose interest. And I'm like, no, like, you're actually I feel like a lot more people will be more hype after this next one happens because, again, a different perspective.
Yeah, it's a fear that I think that it's obvious that they have. Because again, this is up until this point, this was the best arc in the series. It was the best reviewed arc in the series. Word of mouth, NBA is the best arc in the entire franchise up until the one after that. And I think the problem is it's not that they don't have confidence in the arc, it's that the My Hero Academia fan base is almost two different groups of people. The manga readers are cool with that arc. The anime onlys are here for Class A. And you can tell just by the intro alone, like, why is every student in Class A in every single intro, when hardly any of them actually matter to the story.
Like the invisible chick, like, come on now. We don't need to see her hands and feet flying through the air and all that in these intros. Like,
maybe they're changing the opening as soon as they are going to MVA.
Like, imagine we get next week's episode, and the week right after, there's a change in the intro, and it's like, whoa, like that would be so tight, y'all. Like, but you can't have
like keep the same song, but have it with the villains instead, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing new that a season change opening in the middle of it or something.
I guess my point is Class A is a huge marketing tool for the anime because, again, like, why is Hagakure, Ojiro, Koda, Sato in every intro when they have no impact on the story whatsoever? So I feel like they don't know if the villains are strong enough to carry half a season by themselves, which is probably why they're condensing it. And which is why I also don't think they would have the next season be MVA, because you really want to start off your first 10 episodes where Deku's not really there.
Yeah, not a good idea.
Point.
Yeah.
Good point.
But,
I wasn't thinking about that.
Yeah, it's just think of merch. Think of, like, you go to Hot Topic or Box Lunch and you see shirts. Deku's not alone. It's the entire class, or it's the UA, right? UA itself is a marketing tool for this franchise. And I don't know if they think the villains can carry it.
I literally have a shirt on right now with all of Class 1A on it. So yeah, like that's, you go to Target, you go Hot Topic, Box Lunch, Walmart, anywhere. Yeah, it's all of 1A, not just Deku. Unless there's a few shirts with, you know, just individual students, but most of the branding is like the entire class, which is really cool phenomenon because you think of like other shonen anime, you think of Bleach, Naruto, and it kind of is similar to Bleach in my opinion because you have so many of the Shinigami who are pretty popular in terms of the fandom between other characters. But I guess more like Naruto, Dragon Ball Z, where you kind of whittle it down to like 2 or 3 characters. There's somebody for everyone to enjoy in Class 1A. Like if you like speedsters, boom, there's Ida. If you like kind of like loudmouth, brattier characters, there's Bakugo. If you like a more intelligent, studying, but cool and chill character, there's Deku. I mean, there's so many different personalities that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah, that's a big draw, but that's also what makes these next few arcs going to be really interesting to see how the anime kind of pivots it, right? Because we're not going to spoil the manga, but I mean, it kind of focuses back up on Deku alone a little bit. And so will he have the power of a Naruto to headline himself, right? Is the question.
Yeah, which is gonna be interesting, that's for sure.
I think that wraps up this week's anime discussion, right? So we can get into manga. Anything else, guys?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Isaac, put up the spoiler tag. Thank you. Guys, if you have not been caught up with the My Hero Academia manga, thanks for joining us. We'll catch you for episode 104 next week. That is going to be a anime only filler type episode. So looking forward to that. We're going to just smile through the pain, right? Hopefully it's fun. We'll catch you on the next one. Plus Ultra.
Plus
All
Ultra.
Right. So we're on chapter 319, just titled Friend. And guys, we are recording this review way earlier than normal. So this is like our first impressions. I'm going to be real, guys. This chapter kind of broke me a little bit. We flash back. First of all, we have a colored page in the opening, which is great. If you guys don't know, that's to commemorate 7 years of My Hero Academia in syndication. So serialization, I should say. So we're going to get a colored panel for the next 3 chapters, I believe, to celebrate MHA's 7-year anniversary of being in Weekly Shonen Jump, which is awesome. But yeah, we start off going back to Class A and seeing the reactions to Deku leaving. And that is huge. this entire chapter is focusing on Class A, who we haven't seen in, I believe, like maybe 10 chapters. We haven't really seen
I
them
believe
since last
so.
one we saw. Yeah, I know we saw Bakugo
believe-
at the end of the last one, which was great.
Right, but it's been a minute since we've seen other characters.
Yeah, so they're reintroduced, and we see them trying to figure out how to get in contact with Deku. We see Uraraka, Ida, Todoroki, Bakugo, even Tokoyami trying to figure out what to do because Hawks, Best Jeanist, and Endeavor aren't picking up. All Might is missing in action. Classes have been suspended, so these kids are still first years. God dang it. Man, that's wild to me. But yeah, the entire chapter is them figuring out how to get Deku, and Uraraka basically says they need to contact the principal and trap Endeavor and force him to talk. And it even ties back to, I think it was 2 chapters ago, where Todoroki called Endeavor and Endeavor didn't answer the phone. That was this moment. So it makes me question how much time has actually passed. Has it just been like a week or 2 since Deku has left Class A?
Right.
I'm unsure at this point.
Yeah, it seems like not a lot. Not a lot.
Time is so weird in this universe. It felt like it was a couple months, but now it feels like it was maybe 3 weeks max. Anyway, we finally get caught up. Principal Nezu allows them to go find Midoriya. We get caught back up to where Deku was fighting that assassin from last chapter. Bakugo comes in. The entire class is behind him, and it looks like Deku's about to square up and fight his classmates. Leo, what are your thoughts on this chapter? Because a lot happened. I'm just giving a brief summary of what happened, but man, this was crazy.
So Deku about to get that ass beat. That's all I know, man.
Yeah.
If it was just Bakugo, I'm like, okay, well, maybe he can worm his way out of it. But I'm like, okay, Bakugo, Ida, Shoto, Uraraka, like, there's no way. There's no way. Like, no.
Not in the state he is in.
Yeah, especially not how he's battered and beat down right now. It's like, dude. But it does show us just how determined Deku is to do this alone at this point, which it's a little bit weird considering it, as we just discussed, we don't know how much time has passed, and it seems like it's only been a matter of like a week or so. So I'm like, damn, Deku, you hard-headed, bro, for just a week? That just doesn't seem like enough time to like make a damn near complete character switch from being like, oh, yeah, you know, so caring for the class 1A and so concerned with his classmates to just like doing it all on his own. A little bit of a quick swap there.
And I like Bakugo's reaction to him saying, I'm fine. That's just typical him in the best way possible, honestly.
I love that he called him a little...
we jumped to this...
Oh, my fault.
I was going to say, then we jumped to later on in the chapter, and Uraraka says, we're worried about you, and then Deku just says, I'm fine. And it's like, Bakugo knows this kid way too well.
They have known each other since they were little kids, so... If anyone knows him, it's... if there's anyone that knows him well, it's Bakugo, so...
It's Kachan, right?
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, Leo. What were you saying?
I like that he like taunted him by calling him a little All Might wannabe. I was like, dude, he's just playing with his head so much. But I love the moment where Bakugo realizes he knows the most about this entire situation and how uncharacteristic it is for Deku to like leave notes like that. So like, I'm just, man, I'm really curious for this next chapter. But Deku about to get that ass beat. But I want to know what happens from here. Is Class 1A the Justice League now? Are they all going to join Deku on his conquest? And like the principal said, he's welcome back to the school whenever he wants it to go. So what's going to happen from here?
And they're not having class anyway, so it's not like he even fell behind. which is crazy.
They're still first years. Like they even said, we're still first years. They made it still be first years. I'm like, what? So after all y'all been through, they said, if y'all staying back, I don't know, man. That part took me off.
I mean, it was a little weird, but when you think about it, the world has been flipped on its head. Who really has time to teach these kids anything right now? So I get it.
Exactly.
But what got me, like them being first years was one thing. What got me is I think it was like I'm flipping through it now. It's like page 9 or 10. And you have Mineta and Sarah saying we've only known him for a year, but still, it's like, oh my God. This is all like, guys, it's been a year since Deku punched that giant robot in episode 4 to now has only been a year's time. It's wild.
That's like not like shit has just been happening to them nonstop.
It makes me wonder if every single chapter has just been one day, right?
I mean, we're at chapter 319. Like, it would make sense if this was all the course of one whole year. But remember, there was already a mini time skip anyway from the 9 months of All Might's training. So it's like, technically, I guess this has taken place over the course of 2 years from episode 1. Because you get like, okay, Deku trains for a year. And then it's like, okay, we're into I guess this would be technically 2 years worth of an anime.
Technically, but like I just rewatched season 1 fairly recently, and he trained with All Might for 10 months. So just think about this. The time skip between episode 1 and episode 4 is probably bigger than the rest of the series. It's crazy.
Yeah. Like, that's a big time skip compared to what we're working with now, where they're like, oh yeah, I've only known homeboy for like a year, a couple months. Like, what? Come on, guys. This dude has completely shifted his personality.
One thing that got me in this chapter is Uraraka wanting to be a hero to save heroes. And she's the one who like forces the principal's hand to get Endeavor. I also like how this was 19 pages. Usually we're getting 15. So this was way meatier than most chapters. I like how Todoroki remembers Toya, right? And he calls Endeavor out on that. Like how he just sort of left them behind. Because there was that whole thing of the Todoroki family and Hawks and Vegeta's going after Toya. And then we just never dealt with that for like 2 months. So I like how it's kind of bringing everything back into the fold. And yeah, once they beat the crap out of young Midoriya, will they become a super team? Will they become a Titans, right? A Young Justice type of deal? Also, is Deku really going to fight Uraraka? That's what I want to know.
No, she's going to touch homeboy. He's going to float in the air and Bakugo going to womp on him. Like, I mean, the thing is, they've worked together for the last year. Deku really thinks he can take them on?
It depends. It depends how far he wants to go. If he busts out Fa-Jin, then yeah, I think he can take them. But it's like, is he really going to fight them? Like, does he have it in his heart to actually fight these guys? I like how Bakugo is taunting him, like you said, Leo. Like, he says, the almighty inheritor of One for All. Are you smiling now? And Deku has to put the mask on to fake his smile. That just, oof. So good.
Like we said, if there is anyone that knows Deku, it's best. It's him. So you know exactly the scenario is. He might not have experienced itself, but he knows how he is mentally, considering he has known him since they were kids.
Yeah, he knows Bakugo. Bakugo knows that Dekugo is like down and out, and like this is his way of like saying like snap out of it, dude. Like, because Deku's like, everybody get away from me. Like, Deku doesn't talk like that. That ain't Izuku.
It goes back to what we were saying, I think like 2 or 3 episodes ago, when All for One blew up the house, the mansion. The psychological warfare that he's played on this kid is enormous. Like, that's right. He's not talking like Izuku, but that's because he's terrified Because again, Lady Nagan exploded right in front of him. He doesn't want anything to happen to his classmates, to his teachers, to his mom. And so them being this close to him, what if another assassin comes and just puts bullets in all of them, you know? So he's panicking. He's a scared little boy, really, because since we haven't had a giant time jump, he's not far removed from that crying, whiny kid in episode 1. And the pressure finally caught up to him.
It's not like the usual time skip that most Shonen Jump series has, so to speak. Especially someone like Shippuden, Naruto, or Dragon Ball.
Do you guys think Horikoshi is going to actually have him beat everyone?
No, I don't think so.
Because I think about it, and I'm like, if he can go like 50 or 60% plus Fajin plus Danger Sense plus being able to fly, that's a lot to handle.
I think Deku.
That's like
it reminds me of when they fought Mirio, right? I think it was like the end of season 3. They fought Togeda in training, and Mirio beat them all. I think it's a similar situation where Deku can potentially beat his classmates, but it's probably going to come down to Bakugo's sheer determination to beat him or Uraraka appealing to him to make him stop. But I think Deku does have the power to beat all of them.
Especially with Fajin now, I'm like, oh man. He's sitting up here saying he can get his ass kicked, but I'm like, what if Horikoshi like reveals maybe even something else like, oh, he could actually go higher percentage than we thought by himself for a certain amount of time to be able to like actually beat them all.
Yeah, but
Fajin is what makes this fight broken.
Yeah.
But
like I said, he's too tired in my book to win. Had it been him just a day or so out, then that would be one thing. But we saw how exhausted he is. I think they have an upper hand. I think they have an upper hand even with all his powers, so to speak.
See, this is why we needed like a 1 year, 1.5 year at least time skip. Because then it would have made a little bit of sense if they all encountered him at this point. He's changed over the last year, whatever. But it would have been, if he ends up like beating them all in the next chapter, it would have been a little more convincing if we had that year and a half to where maybe he did train with All Might or train with the vestiges in order to master those abilities. It'd be a little more believable that he'd walk away from this. But if they just decide to have him win, might be a little much considering it's only been a couple weeks.
However, how would you be able to have a one year time skip with how chaotic the world is without just feeling how the heck are they not defeated considering how small of a team of heroes they just have? What in terms of how do you explain that they have survived for so long and the enemy has not won during this 1.5 years time period? That's the problem with having that big of a time period in my book. So it's sort of putting himself in a corner in some regards. That is.
They could have just paced it where we, like season 3, for example, when they get their provisional licenses, why wasn't that them in their second year? You know, that things like that. Like you could have implemented time skips in the show, in the series already. I'm not saying we needed like a big time skip from, when he left UA or whatever like that. But it's like the series, the entire time. It's like when the Nomu and the League of Villains attacked at the USJ. That was their first week of school. Why wasn't that their first month of school instead, to give some sort of sense of progression? Or when he trains with Gran Torino, why wasn't that over the summer, Sense of time sense of time throughout the entire series has been weird. That's why at this point it's like, whatever, they're still first years, but like they've been dealing with crap. It feels like every week since they've been at UA.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, it's been like, okay, we went from the villains attacking to training over, not even over the summer. It was just like training with Gran Torino and all that. Like, it's just been, there's been so much that has happened. Bakugo's gotten kidnapped by the villains. I'm like, this has all been in a year? 1 year,
yeah,
y'all. Like all this has happened.
That's what's kind of funny. It's like, you mean to tell me all of that was in 1 freaking year? What happens in year 2? That's why the story probably needs to come to an end. It's like, how do you top this 1 year? What happens in year 2?
Yeah, see, at the end of this, it's like, we flash forward to when they're older or whatever at the last chapter or last episode. That's when you flash forward and they're like, oh yeah, that was quite the year, wasn't it? Like, because what can you really stir up in year 2 that would be comparable?
Aliens, or interdimensional stuff.
Go the Boruto route.
Or a parallel universe like Dragon Ball Super.
Wait, what now?
Yeah, they are.
There
is parallel universes in Dragon Ball Super.
Yep.
Oh, brother.
And Goku and them are part of Universe 7. I was like, what a way to toss Naruto in there somehow.
Nice.
And make him learn Jump Force. It was a Kamehameha.
You and the Jump Force, man. Gosh. One thing I do like is on, I think it's page 7. We cut to Class A, and Bakugo is such a different character now. He's wearing his tie with his uniform, which is just a small detail, but it's like, it shows that Bakugo is united with his classmates. And I think it's interesting how he kind of took a leadership role here because he does know so much about All Might and Deku. And he and Todoroki kind of just took the reins here and like, we got to go get our boy, which comparing watching the anime and seeing the Endeavor arc, it's like, yeah, they've worked together for a fairly long time, considering all of this has been a year. But I like how on this last page, it is Ida, Uraraka, and Bakugo looking like they're going to face off against Deku. And it's like, ooh, so good. I can't wait for next week.
And what a way to bring it back around, too, because thinking about it, like those are probably his 3 biggest friends in UA anyway. Because like, okay, Bakugo, obviously the childhood friend, Uraraka, the crush, and then Ida, the guy who welcomed him in, the first one to welcome him in. It's like, wow, what a cool way to bring it back around. Now they're the ones to stop his little tirade here. But I just wonder where we go from here today. I guess it's like, hey, they beat him, they become the Justice League, and they're like, look, we're gonna take all for one. We're gonna take him down forever, all together. Maybe. I mean, or does Deku beat them all here? I'm curious to hear what you guys think the story will turn into.
Oh, I know. He is starting to beat the crap out of them, and then All Might is jump in front of one of the students, and the reason the gruesome death is him accidentally killing him. Deku, that is. Going dark now.
Isaac, that is way too dark. This is not Attack on Titan, man. Get out of here.
Holy shit.
Deku might act like Eren once in a while, but Jesus.
I mean,
no,
it could happen.
What? If we're gonna go with crazy theories, I think next chapter we're not even gonna follow this up, and we're gonna end up seeing All Might and whatever Stain is doing. Because remember, that was a thing that we never followed up.
I could see it happen. I could see it happen.
Yeah. Every time something exciting happens, they gotta cut away to something else.
I think Naruto trained us well, where it's like we're in the middle of this war arc, and we're just gonna cut away to Kakashi origin story for 10 episodes, right?
Oh
so
my God.
I'm used to it now.
Not to mention, I mean, it's like, okay, that war arc, they had every excuse to cut away the two brothers story, explaining Kaguya. I'm like, man, this war arc, I think that was a good 100 something episodes just because of like the cutaways to this and that. I promise you that war arc is at least 100 episodes alone.
You're not wrong. The war by itself takes up like a third of Shippuden.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Because you got to think about the
it's
reviving
crazy.
people, and then there's another layer where Naruto unites the people, and it just gets crazy. It gets chaotic.
Technically, the Kage Summit is also part of the war, so yeah.
Oh my God, that's right.
But getting back to MHA, there's a chance I feel we're gonna cut away from this next chapter, but the look in Bakugo's eye in this last page, I don't think he's gonna let them cut away from next week.
We'll try to cut away. Nah, Bakugo ain't having it.
No.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I really don't know where we go from here because everything we thought we knew kind of got flipped on its head. Like, we thought he was going to fight Bakugo. I did not expect him to have to square up against the other 19 students in Class A. That by itself, like, my notes have been thrown out the window.
Right. We're sitting up here thinking last week it was just Bakugo and Uraraka.
Yeah.
Nope. You got Ida to deal with. You got, heck, it's like you got Shoto. Everybody, man. Kirishima. Like, how you gonna make it through that list alone? Good luck.
I mean,
one character moment I did. Good.
I was just gonna say, if my wild dark theory would happen, I would be in shock. But honestly, at this point, I wouldn't be surprised.
Who thinks All Might's making it out of the series?
What did you say, Mike?
I was just saying, Isaac, that would break this kid if he killed All Might. That would be terrible. But to answer your question, Leo, I think All Might has to live simply because we have to pay off the overhaul arc where Deku says he's going to help All Might smash that future and he's not going to die. If there were time jumps, we could say, well, All Might lived past the point Night Eye saw, but since there hasn't been that much time passing, All Might is still on schedule to die exactly how Night Eye saw it. So that means Deku and All Might didn't change the future, and there is no payoff to them saying that.
Which is why I think it could end up like that.
Uh-oh. Isaac thinks he's gonna die anyway.
Yeah. I will stand by my wild dark prediction for further notice.
Well, and the thing is like, okay, well, he changed what happened in the overhaul arc already. So would it be completely throwing it away? I mean, he changed something, but maybe you can't change everything.
The thing is, in that arc, we don't know All Might's fate. Overhaul just says you're going to die a painfully gruesome death within the next 7 years. And when All Might told Midoriya, that was 6 years. So All Might only had a year left to live. So my thing is, it doesn't get paid off if All Might dies, if assuming the series ends within the next, few months. Unless you do a time skip and All Might dies towards the end of the series. It's like he saw Deku become the number one hero. They all graduated. All Might dies there, type of deal.
Right. That wouldn't be so bad.
Yeah.
In all seriousness, even I might be in a bit dark overboard and doesn't really leave that part. I do believe the last that I said in the last chapter. I do believe he will die, and that's the last time they have a conversation between two humans, and not with him as the next one will be a Force ghost, so to speak. That
we did set up the vestiges, so yeah.
Yeah, and he has like a outlined vestige. Like it's not clearly it's not him, but yet whenever the vestiges appear, like he's one of them.
Which is, I might not have been that serious about the whole Deku accidentally killing him, although who knows, it might happen. I do think the next conversation they have is when he is about Vestiges. And I do believe that.
That's a possibility. Yeah.
I mean,
I want your
could you
guys' thoughts on
imagine?
this.
My fault.
No, go ahead. Finish up.
Just imagine like Deku, one for all, 100%. Toward Bakugo, and fucking All Might just jumps in the way. Like that'd be horrible.
It'd be reminiscent of what happened against All for One. Remember when All Might did a 100% smash on All for One, and then he just like teleported Gran Torino in the way to take the punch?
Yeah, that was kind of bogus, dude.
That I don't know how Gran Torino's. How does Gran Torino survive, man? He should have died so many times.
I think he's dead, guy. I mean, Deku gave him a scarf. I think that was kind of like, I'm out of here. Like, I don't know if it's official, but it just kind of seemed like it to me.
Until I see a tombstone, I believe nothing anymore. I want you guys' opinion on this right quick. So we see Endeavor meeting with Nezu and the students. We know, so Endeavor knows that they're coming after Midoriya, and he has said nothing to Deku or Best Jeanist or Hawks. What do you think his plan is for letting these students go after him? Because he just kind of let it happen. He didn't try and stop them really, but he also didn't alert the rest of his teammates that it was going to happen.
I think he knew that it was pointless in trying to stop them, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I think he knew that it was pointless, and and to some extent, he felt that maybe he need someone else to. It would be easier for them to have to talk to him instead of grown-ups that doesn't know him as well as they do, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, Isaac, that it's pretty much like if he tried to stop them, they would end up there anyway.
Yeah, Shoto would have just put his flames out.
Kind of.
I'm just really excited to see where we go from here. This is the first time in a while where I think we are towards the end. Like reuniting him with Class A. They might fight for a couple chapters, sure, but it's like once they're together, do they now plan an all-out assault on the League of Villains, save Shigaraki, and take down All for One?
I mean,
is that the ending you guys see for the series?
Here's the thing, though. What makes me question: have the creator said anything if it's close to the end or not? Has he mentioned?
Pretty sure Horikoshi said this next arc is it. Like this is the end.
They said, hold on, let me pull up the chapter because it says in the manga that this is the final act, not necessarily the final arc, but it's like we're in Act 3, right, of the story, essentially.
Here's the thing, though. I could see this being the last, like you said, but my biggest question is. How they are going to end this, because we know that Shonen Jumps loves sequels. Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Super, the infamous Boruto and all that jazz. So my question is, have they planned the seeds for a sequel? And if so, is All for One going to survive in some fashion at the end anyway, or because that's the biggest worry I have with this series, honestly.
Chapter 306, the final panel says the final act begins, by the way. Just confirming that.
Okay. But you get what I'm saying?
I do. It depends on trying to figure out, assuming this has a traditional 3-act structure. So Act 1 is probably Deku learning shoot style, right? That's probably Act 1, him finally mastering the power. Act 2 is leading up to this war, and Act 3 would be the war in the aftermath. So with that in mind, again, that's just me thinking off the top of my head on how you would probably structure the story. With that in mind, there's probably another arc or two after this one before we kind of round it out towards the end. As far as a sequel, you got to remember My Hero Vigilantes is a spinoff. So they could just do spinoffs like that. We follow different heroes or different characters.
Yeah, but
again, going back to what we said.
Let's go back to what you said about it's the class that sails in Mercs and all that. Yes, it's not spin-offs and all that. Yes, that's right. But point.
So yeah, I was just about to go there. So the show is called My Hero Academia. It's not called Deku like Naruto, for example, right? So yeah. I think there's a version of this where we just follow another class. We follow a new class A, whether that's the next year students or 10 years down the line. And you can even have some of the characters in this show be teachers at class A. Like what if instead of Mr. Aizawa being a teacher, you can have, I don't know, Sero or Todoroki or whoever, you know, be their teacher, be their mentor. The series can go any direction because, oh my goodness.
But then also,
excuse me,
how are they going to do with the whole All for One? Do we think he's going to survive for the sake of sequel material and all that? Yes.
No, I don't think All for One is going to survive. Maybe Shigaraki, but I don't think so.
It goes to the payoff, right? Like the entire series since season 2 has told us that One for All exists to defeat All for One. And then later on, we find that Deku is going to unlock the full power of One for All, that Deku is the final user of One for All. And so he has to defeat All for One, right? Otherwise, his purpose as a character is thrown out the window. It kind of reminds me of Star Wars, right? Anakin's purpose is to bring balance to the Force, whether that's for the dark side or the light side. His purpose was to always bring balance. You kind of undo that when Palpatine comes back. We don't want a Palpatine situation.
Oof.
You know?
Oh my goodness. No. Very well said, friend. Very well said.
Yeah, so like, of course, since Star Wars did do that, and since Boruto does exist, there's a possibility that happens. But ideally, I'm hoping they go the Vigilantes route or the next generation of UA students route, as opposed to here's Deku's son or All for One survived, and it's just like, you know, I don't need that. I don't think the fans want that either.
Yeah, then just makes the question of, are they going to Alien or into parallel universe or something? Because how the heck are you going to make a bigger threat than him?
You don't. You end the series and then you reset with different characters who are way weaker. It kind of reminds me of Black Widow that just came out, not spoiling the movie, but it's like we go from Avengers Endgame to Black Widow, and it's like power scaling is a little weird. Things are brought way more to a street level almost. You're gonna just have to like do something like that where One for All for One are not there, the most powerful person would be somebody like Bakugo, right? Or Todoroki. Like that should be the cap. Nobody should be more powerful than Todoroki.
Yeah, like shift the perspective, and like you were saying, make it to where if they want to continue, make it like Vigilante, shift the perspective to characters who are a little bit weaker and have a lot higher hills to climb than those two characters. Because I just feel like My Hero should, once it ends, that should be it. I don't think they should really go into anything more. But if you do want to do the future theory, like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years down the line, could even be 100, who knows? But like if you want to do down in the future, it could be cool to illustrate that if quirks are still in the society, they have started kind of weakening. So like by generation, it's like, oh, like quirks are starting to kind of get less and less powerful or something like that. I don't know. I'm just blabbing now, but I think it could just kind of wrap up.
That's another thing that we need to remember. They introduced the quirk singularity of quirks are becoming too powerful for people to even hold them anymore. So I guess my thing is, will quirks be wiped out? Or like Leo, you said, will it get a factory reset somehow? Whatever it is, it feels like Horikoshi wants it to be finalized. Like you could easily make My Hero Academia like a standard comic book where Deku defeats All for One, but it could be Deku's fighting such and such villain. He's fighting Muscular this issue. He's doing this issue. You know, like how Western comics don't end. You can do that because My Hero, since it is a superhero story, you could have a villain of the week type of situation. But I think he kind of wants the ending to be finalized and to come to an actual close. Whereas Naruto, for example, introducing Kaguya did kind of give us this whole new aspect in the Naruto universe where it's like, yeah, aliens exist now. We can't just really end there. You kind of have to follow that up, right? So, like or not, Boruto does make a little sense of we have to follow the alien plot up a little bit.
Oh boy, and let's be real. They could have just called it quits on that.
Yeah, I think most people are in agreement there. It wasn't needed. I don't know, guys. Do we have any other thoughts on chapter 319 of MHA or episode 103 of MHA? Because, it was heavy in the manga, light on the anime this episode.
Yeah, I mean, I just hope we get to MVA soon, but I do still like to explore character development and getting to see Endeavor break down every single character and their strengths and weaknesses. A little bit unenthused about next week's episode. Might go ahead and skip, to be honest. But I think, I hope it's headed to a cohesive direction with MVA, and I think we could see like 4 or 5 episodes of MVA maybe, and then end the season, which I think would be a perfect conclusion because that would be a hell of a cliffhanger.
What gives me hope for MVA is that it is very action heavy at times, like them fighting Gigantomachia or Shigaraki versus Redestro. Those are great moments, but those are also things that can be done in an episode's time, right? Like we don't need to stretch that out too long. So my hope is that the final 7 or so episodes are just pure MVA without flashbacks, without all that extra filler crap that we get once in a while. That would be awesome. And imagine if it ends on chapter, I think it was like 254, where Deku just narrates and says, "This is the day heroes disappeared." That would be
my god.
That would be a sick cliffhanger. And it's like, what happened? And it just says to be continued season 6. Because that's the chapter right before the war starts. And Deku just says the heroes disappeared. Anime onlys would flip for a year having to sit on that.
Yeah, that would be the perfect out to the season. Like, just think about it. If you only watch the anime, being like, oh my god, like this, what? The hero society is crumbling. Oh my god. Like all the theories the anime onlys will start forming in their head is just going to be, it's going to be insane. And it's going to be a crazy conversation piece. Because then if you take Deku and Bakugo and them out for a couple episodes, then when we finally kind of end the season on them, like it's like, okay, you still came back around to the main guys, but now we have to think about what the future holds. That'd be incredible.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping. Like the season's been up and down a little bit. If it ends there, it makes it all worth it, in my opinion. Like we can complain week to week about how it's taking too long or it's moving too slow, but I think if they can play their cards right, it'll be something really special. What do you think, Isaac?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just get to the effing point at this point. Honestly, when it comes to the anime.
Isaac's in a hurry. Like, let's get this shit going.
Yeah.
Let's get the show on the road, guys. Come on, pick it up. It's just frustrating because, again, the Endeavor Agency arc is one of my favorite storylines, and it's kind of handicapped a little bit because it's dancing around MVA. It's just like, God, this is awful. But the episodes themselves are still really good. That's why I can't get too mad, because this episode was great. But yeah. I think that wraps this podcast up, though. We went on for quite a bit because that chapter was so exciting. Leo, what you got planned this week, man? What's going on?
Guys, come on over to YouTube, Geekly Goods. Check me out on the YouTubes. But yeah, coming up this week, got a lot, guys. Gunpowder Milkshake, Space Jam 2. I will have a reaction and review for Gunpowder Milkshake, and then also a reaction for Fear Street Part 2. And then I'm also rewatching and breaking down the MCU in chronological order. So I'll start that series actually either this Tuesday or next Tuesday, just with Captain America, the first Avenger. Kind of going to be weird to explore the MCU in a chronological way. I've never explored it that way. So it's going to go from Captain America to Captain Marvel. And we're going to see these crazy production changes. Like, oh yeah. Like, wow, this quality is way different. So it's going to be really interesting to break the MCU down in that way. And then, of course, Loki finale, Superman and Lois is back. Guys, we got a lot jumping on the channel this week, so come on by. And then if you're on Twitter, I'm at Leo Rydel, and then at leo.rydel on Instagram and TikTok.
Nice. That's going to be really interesting. So how are you going to go about that? Because the post-credit scenes usually jump to present day for like Black Widow, First Avenger, and Captain Marvel. Are you going to skip those or just watch them anyway?
I'm probably going to watch them anyway. Why not?
Yeah,
let's throw a little wrench into the plans, you know?
Might as well, right? That's going to be fun. Looking forward to that. Isaac, what about you? Where can people find you? You got anything coming up this week?
Well, I'm going to try and fix some reviews up for Web Entertainment, and that I have been and keep working on, and you can find me on Emblemaniac at Twitter, and you can find, like it says on the banner, the Amateur Otaku Pod, and hopefully there is a project that me and Brandon has worked on that will go in for audition tomorrow.
Can't wait to see what you and Childish Brandino cook up. It's gonna be fun. You guys
two know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but I'm keeping the mystery, man. We got to keep.
Let's just say it's fried to perfection.
Yeah.
Finger looking good.
Yeah.
No, but guys, you can find me at Novice Cinephile on Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, and the Novice Cinephile on Instagram. I am reacting to Fooly Cooley. So episode 1 is already on the channel. Episode 2 is coming up this week. Yeah, hopefully robots don't grow out of anyone else's skulls. We'll see. That Fooly Cooley's wild. I've been having so much fun. I'm really enjoying these anime reactions. So if you guys have any suggestions, hit me up. I'll check out some more in the future. You can also check out John and I. It's on the list, man. It's on the list. We'll get there.
You
Promise.
said a suggestion on anime reactions. I'm just saying.
I hear you. At least you didn't say One Piece this time.
That's a project in
but yeah,
itself.
you know, if there's another pandemic, I will react to One Piece because I'd have nothing else to do. Pray that there isn't another pandemic, though. My friend John and I reviewed Black Widow. That episode will be coming up shortly. It'll probably be up by the time you're listening to this. So check that out as well. It's Mike and John at the movies. We're going to be reviewing Space Jam next week as well. And I really need to check out Fear Street. We might be covering that too, because I need to catch up on the Fear Street series on Netflix. But yeah, that wraps this show up. Hope you guys enjoyed listening to our ramblings on the anime, the manga, My Villain Academia, Naruto, whatever else we probably talked about today. We'll catch you next week. Go Beyond, Plus Ultra. Peace.
Peace.